Hello, Divination Divas. So, I'm coming at you with another... Coming at you. What am I, a TikToker? Coming at you. I don't talk that way. I am putting before you, I am offering a review of a deck, which will come as a surprise, because I've been doing nothing but deck reviews this week. But whatever. I really like this. This will be a positive review for the most part, so that will delight anyone who likes that positive things. This is The Tower of Life by Mariah Oller, and I discovered this through Auntie K's Tarot on Instagram. I saw that and I said, oh, this is a cool deck. What is it? I hadn't seen it. And she told me about it. You can find the creator at Harvest and Moon. And it's an indie deck. Looks like a limited edition. I have 165 out of 500, so limited run. But I hope that this becomes a successful print run for this creator and that they do more, because in many ways this deck is very successful and speaks to a lot of things that, as a tarot community, folks have been asking for, including yours truly. So that deserves to be celebrated. So I'll walk through the deck. I'll tell you what I like about it, what I don't like about it. There's not a lot I don't like about it, but there are a couple things. So let's dive in. All right. So let's zoomify. So nicely packaged. Lid for the box, a little large for the bottom, but like, who cares? Really nicely produced little white book. It really is a little white book, but like nice glossy paper. Just lovely like journal prompts for each card, meanings with reversals, and just a little, a little guidebook. And it talks about, tarot. It talks about gender and tarot spreads. And then I thought I saw a website right there. No, I didn't. There are a couple spreads, yeah. And then, just... Actually, I'll point out the numerology in the Little White Book, because even though it's not quite matching up with what I do, I think it's a really good reference, a good, nice system for numerology, which I think is successful. And seems to work really nicely with this sort of Rider-Waite-Smith inspired deck. Here's the back of the cards. Really, really cool. Really simple. This is a very neutral deck, which is a thing that if you watch my channel, I appreciate, as the British would say. Yeah, cardstock is linen. It's nice and thin. Shuffles really beautifully. I have said before, I don't love linen cardstock because for me it's very slippy and I'm very klutzy. But that said, it's very popular. As far as linen cardstock goes, this is good, and people who like linen cardstock will love it. I'm not turned off by it. I just prefer a little bit more resistance. As I've said many times before, successful tarot cardstock for me, the most successful tarot cardstock for me has a nice balance of resistance and slip. Modern tarot, which is the thing that I as a reader struggle with enjoying. Now, I don't have any problem with it. When I tend to read, though, I tend to read for decks that have sort of a timeless or maybe non-time or fantastical time, and I don't know why. It may be just because my first deck was the Waite-Smith that lives in this sort of weird never time, you know what I mean? But it's I don't know. It's a thing that personally I struggle with. I have a lot of decks that I love, like the True Heart, This Might Hurt. There's others that are escaping me right now. Yeah, I can't think of what they are. But I tend to sort of not reach for them as much. But that's just a weird bias that I have. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't know what it is. Again, I think it's just because I came up with decks that do have this sort of fake history, associated with them. But again, it's just a thing I have to get over. They're very simple images, which I really appreciate because of the way I read, because of the way I blend cards. I really find that helpful. I like neutral, simple artwork more than any other kind. So here we go with the Fool. the Magician. I mean, like I said at the beginning of this review, this deck sort of has a lot of everything that we've been talking about the last bunch of years in terms of representation, authentic representation, inclusivity, etc. So bravo in that regard. I think it's great. Here's a card I'm not wild about. It's just like, it doesn't feel tarot-ish to me. And there are a couple images throughout the deck that are that, but again, like, no deck is perfect. The Empress, I've talked about many times. Many of us don't love a pregnant Empress. This is about as great an Empress, though, that I've seen. I love the regality of this card. I love just how, with a very simple image, we understand the Empress so beautifully. I love this Emperor. I mean, as I have said in other videos and talked about with other folks, like, the only depiction of disability, amputation, etc. always seems to be in the Chariot. So to have an Emperor with a prosthetic leg, I think, is just brilliant. And again, it brings more nuance to the Emperor, more than just the sort of, like, encapsulation of everything that is bad about masculinity. I love this Hierophant. I love the depiction of vitiligo on the card. I don't love this as a Hierophant image because I do tend to read the Hierophant fairly negatively, but that's a bias of my own. And again, it's a small thing, you know what I mean? There are many decks that I work with and that I love that have, for example, Emperor cards that I don't like. I like this one. You know, I use the Chaparidza as an example all the time. And it's a great reading deck and I use it all the time and I just look past the thing I don't like, you know what I mean? But I love this. The Lovers here is really beautiful. Again, like, to see queer people, people of color, queer joy, you know, joy from people of color that isn't sort of a depiction of oppression or misery in the Lovers card, I think is really great. I love the Chariot. I love the little one-eyed puppers. So sweet. Beautiful Strength card. Simple, just really simple, beautiful. I love this Hermit. Again, just evocative and beautiful, and just like, I love the little just choices of color. Wheel of Fortune, simple, not terrible, the way like so many Wheel of Fortune cards can be. Beautiful Justice card. I mean, look at the movement without a lot of detail. You know what I mean? Just so simple and effective and just beautiful. Another one that, you know, I love the body positivity here. I love the inclusivity of it. It's not necessarily how I read the Hanged Man traditionally, which has to do with consequences and punishment. Although to me, as a person who is not athletic and fairly lazy, this does look like punishment. So they take that. Death, again, very simple, very nice. Temperance. The Devil, not a terrible, mean-looking devil, just a lot of opportunity for interpretation. Love this Tower, really good. Another one of parts that's not my favorite, don't love this as the Star. It's great. It's a lovely image. It just doesn't feel like the Star to me. Again, personally, as a reader, I can live with it. It's, you know, just talking about my own preferences. Here's the Moon. I actually got this in a reading I did with this today. I love the communion here of the wolf and the woman, or the female presenting figure here. I love this little girl with her rainbow hair and the, like, band-aids on her knees for the sun. It's so much better than a creepy baby. I'm, like, obsessed with the hair. I think that's so cool. Really fascinating Judgment card, and you're going to see the world is also really fascinating, too. There's not a lot in the book that describes why choices were made, which is a thing I always wish artists would talk about, because I'm always curious, but this idea of sort of, I don't know, age and viewing ourselves and seeing ourselves differently than what we are, and I don't know, cycle. It's just a really interesting image. And then this world image is so interesting to me. I don't even want to talk a lot about it because it's so fascinating, and I just sort of want it to speak in readings without me imposing too much on it. Now we get into the suits. So of course we have wands. Again, really simple images, very Rider-Waite-Smith based, sort of, again, modern riffs on them. In this case, I do like when we get something that's fresh and different from what we're used to seeing. And I think you get a lot of that in the suits. The Eight of Wands with the rocket. I love the matches and the fire. I love this sort of like stomping Nine of Wands. This is really something. The matches taped below the eyeballs as the match comes in. That's striking and terrifying. Very sort of Clockwork Orange. So, the courts. The courts are renamed Explorer, Student, Influencer, and Teacher, which is an interesting choice. Now, the creator in the guidebook equates students with knights and explorers with pages. I have flipped that because it is pretty much exactly how I read with pages as students and knights as explorers. There's nothing in the images that tips them one way or the other, so you have a lot of liberty, I think, as a reader to associate them as you will. But for me, knights are absolutely explorers, pages are absolutely students. The only change I don't love, and it's really about the word, is the influencer. To me, that word is just so contaminated by social media that it irritates me, and I have such a passionate hatred for influencer culture. It's not a word I would have chosen. Again, I can live with it. It's just a word. I just wish it were something less skunked by toxic social media behavior and capitalism. So that's what I have to say about that. That said, again, they're very simple images. This reminds me of Tippi Hedren in The Birds, and I'm here for it. And they're great, you know what I mean? They're great images. So now we move into cups. 2, 3. A thing I hear a lot from friends is that, a lot of tarot decks might be diverse in terms of body image or ethnicity, skin color, but rarely in age. You know what I mean? And so to see people in a range of ages depicted, I think, is also really important. This is an interesting Four of Cups. I don't quite get what it is, but I like it. It reminds me of Betty Davis in All About Eve. 5. I love these two kids on the Six of Cups eating noodles. I don't think I've ever seen a Six of Cups like this before, and I just love it. The 7, the 8, the 9. It's the I don't love this Nine of Cups because it's like modern environments don't feel tarot-y to me. But again, I can live with it. It's just a thing. When I see it, I'm like, oh no, it's so modern. And I guess part of it is modern life changes so quickly that things become dated very quickly. Not that image is going to be dated. I mean, it's a hair salon. It's just, to me, it's like, oh, it's so current. So it's so specific to modern life that in a way, as a reader, I sort of feel like it's an imposition on my read. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It's just a thing that I have to, I guess, work through. Student of Cups, Explorer, Influencer, Teacher. And then now we get into Swords, Ace, 2, 3. Here's another one I'm not wild about. I love the decentering of the typical heart with swords. I just don't sort of get this. Again, it's fine. I'm just sort of like, But I mean, that's art. You know what I mean? We would all do it differently. That's why people make decks. I really love this 4 of Swords. And the 5 of Swords here. The 6. It's interesting. I've been thinking a lot about the 6 of Swords for some reason lately because I've been thinking about, if I were to make a modern deck, I did, I did my little riffs on Marseille, but I'm like, if I could paint a deck, if I could make a deck, what would it look like? And I've been trying to sort of experiment with the 6 of Swords, and I can't find it. And so it's interesting to see this interpretation of that, which I think is really cool. 7, 8, 9. This is a really fascinating 10 of Swords. As I was looking at this today, I was sending pictures of it to my friend, and this was one that really struck her. It struck me too. Student of Swords, Explorer, Influencer, and Teacher. And then finally the suit of pentacles, ace, 2, 3, 4, I really like this 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then the quartz, there's the student. I love this. The explorer, influencer, and the teacher. So that's it. I think it's great. I really do. Aside from, the individual cards I'm not wild about. It's just my own personal taste. I think it's successful. I think it's wonderful. I plan on using it. I think it's really just great overall. Absolutely so much of what so many readers have been sort of begging for a long time. And I think in that regard, should be a big hit. Shuffles nicely. Again, linen cardstock always does. A bit slippy for me, as I've said, but that's just my clumsy shuffling technique. But like any linen is meant to ruffle shuffle, and so super, super good in that regard. I'll just lay some out here as I usually do. Not well shuffled, but nonetheless. It's always nice to see it in a big spread, and one of the reasons why I like decks like this is because I do tend to use this 9-card box as my go-to for almost everything, and one of the things I really appreciate with the deck is when I can see immediately what I'm looking at, see the suits immediately, see the combinations, and start to get themes and quick hits quickly, and simple, fresh, clear art like this I think really is great for that. So wonderful, really I think is great. It's the Tarot of Life by Mariah Oller, and I'll leave the creator's website below. Hope you enjoyed this. Take care, be good, and we'll talk soon.